Welcome to our talent. I'm Juan Carlos Vera. I've taught classical guitar at Miami Dade College for the past 27 years. If the elite circle of top guitarists in the world, or guitar fans for that matter, were asked to pick whom they'd rather speak with for an hour about guitar, there's little doubt both groups would choose my guest. For good reason. Pepe Romero is not just the most revered classical guitarist in the world, but also its top guru, a guitarist who not only solved his own technical difficulties, but everyone else's in the process. Possessing the sharpest observational and analytical skills, Pepe Romero's ingenuity led to technical formulations characterized by the beauty of simplicity and audacious discovery. Technically the fastest, strongest, and most accurate of players, a few seconds of Pepe Romero's recording suffice to experience the very core, the essence itself of guitar sound, which his lucidity and compass-like understanding thread every time. He can tell you what he sounds like at 30 paces, scarcely setting foot in that direction, by the ingenious ways he devised of objectively deducing his own projection. Uniquely among guitarists, his sound retains intrinsic value, separate from the repertoire it adorns, as a true protagonist. While a distinctive sound defines a guitarist, in Pepe Romero it ceaselessly calls attention to itself and does not concede ground. Uplifting and energizing, it evokes liveliness and joy. Listen to his recording of Mauro Giuliani's A Major Guitar Concerto, if in doubt, or when feeling down for therapeutic value. His sound celebrates, knows no burden or complacency, and holds clarity as its main means of communication. Recording artist at Philips, the prestigious classical music label, Pepe Romero holds several honorary doctorates, has been knighted by Spain's King Juan Carlos I, and routinely performs with the world's top orchestras and conductors at the world's greatest and most important concert halls. He is taught at the University of Southern California and the University of California at San Diego, among others. It's a great pleasure to welcome one of the great names in all classical music, Pepe Romero. Welcome, Pepe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We feel privileged. Thank you so much. I've always thought of you as an orchestra musician who happens to play an instrument which is not in the orchestra. Is the essential Pepe Romero an orchestra musician more than a soloist deep down?
I think that more than an orchestra musician, I'm a singer whose voice is the guitar. I love singing, but I love all kinds of classical music. I love opera, art songs, symphonies, string quartets, piano, violin, and of course, my beloved guitar. And I just think of myself as someone who is passionate about the guitar and who have had an amazing opportunity to listen to great musicians of all different disciplines. And each of them, through their sound and through their musicality, taking you deep into their spirit, their soul. And I've been so touched by all of them that when I make my own music, when I'm playing, I automatically go there inside of me, and I play from there.
Would you say that your musical perspective changed radically after you began to perform with orchestras? Was there a different Pepe Romero before that?
I began to play with orchestras when I was really young. I was about 14 or 15 when I started playing with orchestra. And before I played with orchestras, I always was, I always enjoyed very much playing chamber music, either with singers or with string quartets, and with cellists, with pianists. So, and of course, I grew up with my family. The first sound I heard was my father.
Your father was a great guitarist.
My father was great among the great. And my father's elegance and the nuances, the variety of color in his tone, and the purity of his touch to express his musical desires was, it would touch deeply anybody that heard him. My father had 3 sons, and each of us learned to love and to be passionate and to devote our lives to continuing his quest and continuing with the passion and the love for the guitar and for music.
And these experiences that you had first with chamber music and then with orchestras, did they define the later Pepe Romero in the sense of maybe contrary to other guitarists, being more strict rhythmically, maybe being less or having less freedom more as an orchestra musician or as an ensemble player would be thinking of? Did that shape Pepe Romero in that direction?
I think everything that happened in my life helped to shape how I play. And of course, it did have a great influence. I played so many concertos and with so many different orchestras and so many different conductors. And when you play with orchestras or with other musicians, the perimeters, upon mainly rhythmic perimeters, that you can express your freedom through, become a little bit tighter. Mm-hmm. But within that structure, you can express and you can do whatever you want, but you have to come together very rhythmically.
Yes, and in a moment we're going to be listening to Diálogos for Guitar and Orchestra and the Concierto Aranjuez, where that is very obvious. The assumption, of course, is that you're comfortable with performances with orchestra, and that thereby solo performances would also be something that are comfortable, because you've been so successful. But is that really the case? Are you as comfortable performing solo concert as with an orchestra appearance?
Yes, I am, because by nature and by the work, the teachings of my father, I am very, very connected to the rhythm. And for me, music is the combination of sound and time. And both, you have to have a real, from the moment that you begin to play, you have to have a total connection to the rhythm, to the pulse of the piece. And that holds the music together. Once you know and you feel and you know exactly the absolute precise, straight line of the rhythm, you can bend it. But you need to know how much are you bending it? How much are you holding the time? Or how much are you pushing it? And so, in a way, in playing concert, I feel, to answer your question, I feel the same comfortable playing solos or playing with orchestra or playing with other people. I've been very, very fortunate that I have played with some of the greatest conductors and great orchestras. I've played with some that are not so great as well.
You bring them up when that happens?
It's always it's a dance that you do together. And you join and you make the best of the moment and you enjoy the moment.
You mentioned your childhood experiences with your father. Do you ever wonder how it's possible for anybody to have learned the instrument outside of the region where you grew up? Of course, even the neighborhood where you had these great players in the area, and your dad seemed to be very open to welcoming these players to your house. And you grew up in this rich guitar environment. Do you ever wonder how is it possible for someone in a distant place to have ever had a similar education?
I haven't wondered that because I have met great players from all over the world, different places. But I am very grateful to the environment that I had when I was a kid and when I was playing. The normal thing in my house was, when I was a child, was in comes Don Rogelio. Don Rogelio was an older man who was a fantastic player, and his name was Rogelio Molina. He was a student of Tárrega. And it was in his house that Tárrega was staying when he wrote Recuerdos de la Alhambra.
Wow, that is historic.
And this man used to come, and I grew up watching him and my father playing guitar together, separate one for the other, and talking about Francisco Tárrega and how the maestro did this and how the maestro did that. So that on one side. Then it was a poet would come in, a painter. My house was filled with artists, and I was born in 1944, the full range of the dictatorship of Franco. All the artists are people that love freedom. Art is free. Art is the connection to your own spirit. And of course, all of these were anti-Franco. All my family,
and your father
friends,
himself,
and my father himself was. So I grew up, and it was obvious the suffering that the people of Spain were having at that time. So I saw the power of music, the power of art, to bring comfort, to bring hope, to bring love in a time when the people really needed it.
Very good. And on that, we're going to watch Pepe Romero perform, and we'll be back in a moment.
Start your story at MDC. Be analytical. Be imaginative. Be a rising star. Be bold. Be connected. Be the solution. Be ready. What's your story? Be the best, be you, be MDC.
Welcome back to Our Talent. I'm Juan Carlos Vera. We're joined by one of the great guitar players of all time, the wonderful Pepe Romero. Pepe, we were talking about your orchestra experience. You're often cited as the loudest player that anyone can recall. Did the idea that you had to be loud also evolved because you were often playing with orchestras at a time when there was a limited use of amplification?
I still prefer, much prefer not to use amplification. And one of the conductors that I have performed many concerts, probably more than 1,000 concerts, was with Rafael Frubeck de Burgos. And Rafael was, he was a fanatic for the sound as it came out of the instrument and not to amplify the guitar. And I played with him all over the world with many different orchestras, many different concert halls, and never amplified. Yes. But I think that it's not that I am that loud, but that something with the technique of my father is, and mine and my brothers, is that the precision with which you release the string is without any interference. It comes from visualizing that the sound comes from the guitar. It comes out. Many players think of the sound as the finger begins to strike. So the concept, the visual concept of the sound, when they are thinking of the movement of the hand, is in. But the sound actually doesn't leave the guitar until you release the string. So the awareness that the moment when your finger touches the string, it moves it. It does whatever it's going to do, and then it releases it. It slides off, and the string is free to vibrate. That instant is all the time, is all what you have to give the guitar the information of what it asks her to do, what you wish. So to develop that into an absolute perfect synchronization into a relationship, a physical relationship between the string and your fingertips.
Yeah, and you've developed the idea that the string helps you. In fact, it helps you not only to produce the sound, but it also to release the finger in a way that you don't see other guitar players.
Yes, the string, of course, because as you release if you take the string and you pull it, as you have created an energy that, and it's all done in a micro nanosecond. But that time that you have and you feel the energy from the touch, and the touch, I feel it always very soft. I play with a very soft touch. And then it is how much is what I do to the string and how clean, I can release it.
And also technically, that leads to almost it being inevitable, because you've created a situation in which things will occur. The strings wants to play itself, and you're simply letting it. You're removing the barrier.
You said it. You said it absolutely precise. The string wants to play itself. And actually, the string is not really what is playing, because the string is pulling on the bridge. And when you
activating it.
Activating the bridge. When you release the string, the bridge pumps.
Yes.
And so when you feel that, how much are you pulling on the bridge? How much are you pulling on the string? And you release it, your finger becomes very free. And the string has no doubt of the direction it has to move. And then it produces a sound that is not how loud it is, because there are many times when I'm playing with an orchestra and I'm playing pianissimo. But that pianissimo must be heard. It's not only that when I play loud, then it can be heard. It is how clean those vibrations are that they keep multiplying as they spread through the hall. And that's what makes you be able to hear with ease.
And the interesting thing is that this mechanics visually makes it very interesting too, because when the finger pulls in and it's fired almost, it creates an interesting dynamic visually, so that your right hand looks very lively, very active. So an audience would be instantly taken by that, because other people's right hand looks passive, will look passive, but yours is alive, it's active. It's entertaining to look at, even if there is no sound.
Well, because what it is more that my hand is reacting to the string.
Yeah. And of course, in terms of amplification, this would get right at the heart of your sound. It would affect what you're doing.
Yes.
So that you would have to understand how the concept of amplification you would have to accept with some reluctance, because you're giving up something very basic.
It's very difficult to control all the nuances. You have something between you and the audience, but there are times when it is necessary.
It's interesting, talking about volume and projection. Andres Segovia, Barbosa Lima used to say that, or he said that Segovia was loud and not loud at the same time. Juan Mercadal, the great Cuban guitarist who knew Segovia, said that Segovia was loud. Did you have any first-hand experience as to the projection that Segovia achieved?
Yes. We were friends with Segovia, and actually it was Segovia and Federico Moreno Torroba,
the great composer,
that asked me to make the first recording of Diálogos. And because Diálogos was written as a farewell to the great collaboration and union that Segovia and Torroba had throughout their lives. But Segovia at that time was no longer playing with orchestras. And he knew from the beginning that he was not going to play it. And both of them asked me to be the one to record it.
You felt the pressure.
I believe in destiny, and I believe that no matter how much I make a decision of, I'm going to do this, if it's not meant for me to do that, I'm going to do something else. You're going to do what is handed to you. And I've always, with the music, I've played where I have been asked to play. I've accepted all the great gifts that I've been given. With Joaquin Rodrigo, he wrote 5 guitar concertos. I've done the world premiere of 3 of them. And with Torroba, with many great musicologists like Thomas Heck, when he was doing all his discoveries with Giuliani. He was my good friend, so I got to revive many of Giuliani's pieces, to play the first recording of the 2nd and 3rd concerto. And so
we mentioned I mentioned at the beginning the A major concerto, and the sound that you achieved there. We're talking about your sound being a protagonist, and the sound on that recording on the A major Giuliani concerto.
Yes.
It's a thing that it stands out so much just on its own.
But I don't think so much about what I need to do. It's just that to me, that is such a valiant, such a magnificent entrance. The way that Giuliani has the long introduction, it's a wonderful overture. And then,
how do you deal with that as a guitar player, waiting so long on stage?
And then you just have to get into the mood. And then it's your chance, but it's not you. For me, it's the guitar. That there's this orchestra that plays such a beautiful, full, rich, tonal introduction, and then it's a chord, and there's silence, and the guitar enters in all its magnificence, in all its grandeur. The guitar is majestic. The guitar is a queen from another world. And it enters, and all I do is I feel that. And I become so enchanted and so passionate about how Giuliani entered the guitar into the stage, then I just go with it. And it happens. I don't do it.
You also became the main exponent of the Concierto de Aranjuez. Your performances were unique and celebrated, I think, even by the composer as his favorite. At which point did you realize that the Concierto de Aranjuez would play a major role in your career?
More looking back than when I was looking forward. When I look back now into my career, I can see, wow, that was, if I'm looking at the development of a career, if I think, looking back at my accomplishments, I can see that was a major moment in my life. But when I was in front of that moment, all I knew was the opportunity to make that music happen at that moment. I've done many, many world premieres. And it is the desire, before the premiere, is the desire. This is a great piece of music. I love this. I can do it, and I want to share it. And it's being given to me to deliver it to the people. To take it from the printed page and make it sound in a concert hall. And it's pure, in my life, it has been pure excitement, pure joy, love, and I've never once thought if this is going to be important, if I do it well, it is going to make me more famous. If I do it bad, it's going to make me crash. I just did it with all the power and all the love and all the concentration on what I was doing.
Great, and on that we're going to watch Pepe Romero perform the Concierto de Aranjuez, and we'll be back in a moment.
Be creative. Be a hero. Be the solution. Be connected. Be innovative. Be global. Be successful. Be you. Be MDC. Be Miami Dade College.
Welcome back. I'm Juan Carlos Vera, joined by one of the great guitar players of all time, Pepe Romero. Pepe, going back to the technical items that we were discussing in relation to your specific technique, when you started to explain the way that you produce your sound, did you find that people could not believe it? Did you find incredulity when you actually explained it, that no, it cannot work like that. Did you find that kind of reaction?
No, because it actually does work, and this whoever the student that I was working with, once they could feel it and once they could do it, they can sense the immediate difference.
When so many people are geared by the Segovia school, which is different, obviously, and when an explanation of this type is offered, which is so, of course, logical, makes so much sense, and like you say, students respond to it right away, but still there's the certain ideology in a certain way that leads to another direction, and I was wondering whether you had found, maybe not on the part of the students who have faith on you, but some other parts of the larger, maybe teaching population, that there was this belief. But I guess you didn't find.
No, and you know, the Segovia school is not that different. Perhaps more different, it was how he expressed it to the students. Maybe the method of teaching, but the method of playing, Segovia had a very clean and beautiful and a sound that was easily heard anywhere.
But would you say that your sound, for example, that you prefer more depth in your sound than shine, whereas maybe in the case of Segovia or other players, you're looking more for shine, but you're looking for depth?
I'm looking for the fundamental part of the tone to be strong, and then the shine around. But I want a strong fundamental.
The Manuel Barrueco was talking about that incidentally. How do you feel when people like Manuel Barrueco say that they have learned from you? Maybe in this very precise topic that we're talking about, he said it on this show, that he had learned a lot from you. How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel amazingly happy, because Manuel is one of my absolute favorite players. I love the way he plays and his musicality, and him as a person. We go back many, many years, so it gives me great joy to think that if I had played any positive part in his life, he certainly has played them in mine too.
Getting back to the Aranjuez, would you, and perhaps looking back now, as you said before, would you have envisioned your career going in a different direction had the Concierto de Aranjuez not been written? What other piece would have taken the role that the Concierto de Aranjuez had in your career?
I don't think that is. There are many fantastic pieces and concertos that I adore, but things are what they are, and the Concierto de Aranjuez has become not only the most famous and most played of all guitar concertos, is the most famous, the most played concerto period for any instrument.
Yes.
So the life of the guitar, without not just my own personal life, but the life of the guitar, without Concierto de Aranjuez, would be different. And I was very close to both of the composers, Rodrigo and Torroba. And I used to go and stay very, very often in the house of Joaquin Rodrigo. And I stayed a few times in Madrid while I was rehearsing to go to London and record the Giuliani concertos. So I would be in Rodrigo's house practicing the Giuliani concertos. And Rodrigo would love to sit at the piano and improvise together with the Giulianis. And he used to call, he said to me, ¿qué traes nuevo del odioso Giuliani? What do you bring new from the odious Giuliani?
He also hated Tárrega.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because he told me why.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us the story.
And I asked him, and I said, why do you hate Giuliani? And you sit in the piano and you spend hours improvising Giuliani with me. He says, oh, it's very simple. For so many years, I thought I had written the first guitar concerto, and now I hear that so long before me, somebody wrote such a magnificent concerto. Mine is no longer the first. And he hated Tárrega because he said he wished he had written Recuerdos. He didn't.
Yes, and Recuerdo is such a great piece.
It's a fantastic
Because you have
piece.
a tremolo piece by Barrios, but in the Tárrega piece, he adds these slurs that take it up.
Take it up, and it's magical.
Yeah.
Recuerdos is magical, and Rodrigo, when he wrote, he wanted to almost as a, well, not almost, as a tribute to Recuerdos, he wrote Junto al Generalife,
Which you recorded.
which I have recorded. And you know that the Generalife is the summer palace of the Emir of Granada, and they would spend the year in the Alhambra and move up to the summer, to the Generalife. So Rodrigo doesn't put himself in the Alhambra, like Recuerdos de la Alhambra. He puts himself not even in the summer palace, but nearby.
Nearby. Interesting story. I want to take you back for a moment to the third movement of the Concierto de Aranjuez, where there's a delayed moment. There's the last scale in your Philips recording of that piece. The smoothness of that scale, how every note succeeds the next one in such perfect balance. How did you work that out? Could you walk us through some of that, if you remember your preparation for that recording?
Well, my preparation for that recording was the same. I've always loved scales. It begins with this: virtuosity. Why do we search for virtuosity? So that I feel so that we can make music more beautifully. And I think of scales as bridges that take us from one point to another. And when you play a scale, you think of the entire scale and what is holding. A scale, it opens and it holds the space together and transport you in perfect rhythm and in perfect timing, so you land on the other side exactly when you have to land. And
that's what you hear. You hear all of these notes ending on that destination.
Is the destination.
But the getting there is so smooth.
Because the getting there, it happens automatically. You have the opening and you know where the closing is going to be. And then you just let take you to it. So, but I practice every day. Even I'm 74 years old, and even now, I still practice my diatonic major and minor scales every day.
And your Giuliani studies?
and I practice my Giuliani studies.
The students should be listening.
And I practice. But what do I practice for? When you practice scales, if you are appreciative of that, not everybody is appreciative of what happens, the smoothness. How do you get the smoothness of the scale? When you're practicing, pay more attention to what happens between each note at the beginning. We are with the scale ta 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 ta, and we don't hear da ra 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 to the sound that is happening in between the notes, no matter how fast it is.
Yeah, because that's your playing. No matter how fast.
No matter
the
how
detail
fast.
Is there.
No matter how fast.
Yeah.
There is tone between one note and another. No matter how fast, you have to hear the sound.
Talking about your identity as a guitar player, maybe as a young person, did you ever formulate things in such a way as to say, I will be the fastest player
No,
and the loudest player?
no, no. But I had always a very clear awareness of how I listen to music and how I hear the music. And I looked for within myself to be able to produce what I hear in my head and what I feel.
Do you believe in the differences between a Spanish school and a more European or international school, or do you think that some people just cannot play rest strokes?
I think that some people have not given themselves the chance to play rest strokes. Rest strokes are beautiful, and they produce a richness and a thickness to the sound that it is wonderful. It's just like free strokes have a clarity, and I love both. I love both. It's like...
Now, I think it will be unforgiving because every guitarist wants to know, how do you get so good with rest strokes, since we're talking about it? What's the rest of it?
I think that to be really good with rest strokes, it helps that I always was in love with flamenco music. And that when you play flamenco, you have to play rasgueados, and you have to go from rasgueados to arpeggios, from arpeggios to scales, from scales to rasgueados, from rasgueados to scale, back to arpeggios, to tremolos, and the hand learns to feel a balance, that it is in a position that is accessible to any of those. And also, when we play rasgueados, we are strengthening the extensors and not always playing into the hand with the flexors. So,
do you feel that most technical problems have an answer that could be traced to flamenco playing ultimately?
in the right hand.
Yeah.
In the right hand, yes. I think that flamenco is very conducive to natural way, relaxed way of playing with the right hand that works for everything. So when I was growing up, in my house, there were the students of Tárrega, but there were also such people as Niño Ricardo, Paco Ávila, Manolo de Huelva. They were great flamenco players. And as a little kid, because my training was always in classical, and these people loved classical, I would trade with them and I would show them. Most of them could not read music.
Yes.
So you have to show them
Yes.
a piece by you play it and the mimic. And then in turn they would show me flamenco thing.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We could go endlessly with the great Pepe Romero. Pepe, it's been such a pleasure to have you. I hope you can come back and we can discuss so much more. I had so many topics that I would love to get get you to talk about.
It was a great pleasure, and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much. What a great pleasure having you. And thank you for watching another episode of Our Talent, and we'll be back soon with another program. I'm Juan Carlos Vera.